Fan of tea?
Yes. I'm a fan
Lots
of
of
tea.
people are fan of tea. Sophie, tea loves
Nice
fan
of
of
you
tea.
to get one for yourself, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
it's good tea. I like myself some
Interesting
tea.
you went for a hot tea instead of an iced tea.
Yes, we have
Spicy tea is very hot.
yes, but hot
There
tea.
is an iced tea over there.
Hot tea is more preferable.
Iced tea is bad.
It's actually burning my mouth slightly. My
Right.
tongue, rather.
It is iced tea. Iced tea is just not.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so just as well it's not iced tea.
Mm.
Okay, it's not really fair that you're standing there drinking your tea and I don't even have a cup of tea. Who's my friend? You and Brown?
Yeah?
Do you like to make me a cup of tea, friend?
Oh, I'd love to.
Good news. Did you make yours?
No, he's lazy.
You didn't, okay.
I made it myself.
A lazy
actually.
man, okay.
So we just kind
Well,
of.
sorry, we feel
wait
like we
for
need
you.
tea before we can kind of speak to you guys.
That's pretty neat.
Sorry, this is a bit kind of an anticlimax.
Yeah, tea's good. Thank you. You and Brown, I thought we were friends.
I'm not good enough. Is that open there for a while?
Stick your fingers in here, please. And you and Brown, is that hot tea?
It's not hot tea.
It's not hot tea. It is lukewarm tea. Lukewarm tea isn't really acceptable, I would suggest. And you
How could you
obviously
drink
don't
that?
really care about friendship, you're going to give me lukewarm tea. It is gross, isn't
That's
it?
dumb.
Daniel Wells.
Boo for you.
Thanks,
Can we have a boo for
Boo.
you, please? Boo. Wait, so actually, can you bring it up? I want it. Ewan, I'm on the cup. I'm on the cup. Wait.
Oh, you and Brown.
Oh, Ewan Brown.
Not good.
Not very good.
Not good. Lukewarm tea isn't a thing.
Mm.
Like, you don't like iced tea, but at least iced tea is a thing, isn't it? Because if you go somewhere, you could buy an iced tea, or you could buy a proper tea. What you could not buy is a lukewarm tea, aka you and Brown tea.
Yeah.
Incorrect.
We might name it Ewan Brown tea because I feel like that's actually a little bit
Oh,
rude.
maybe we shouldn't. You're not quite as bad as lukewarm tea yet.
Okay, I think maybe we should move on from.
Should we
topic
stop
tea.
talking about tea now?
Let's stop
All
talking
right,
about
fair
tea. So you guys may have been thinking, what on earth has tea got to do with God and some kind of sermon? But actually, today's theme, we're looking at being all in for God and all in for Jesus and who He is. And actually, we're talking about lukewarm and being on fire, and then mentioning the iced tea as well. And but there's this passage in a book called Revelation that really links to what we want to say. Grace can read that for us.
Cool. So, Revelation is the last book in the Bible. So it's after Jesus has come and he's gone back to heaven. And Revelation is full of messages and visions that God has given this guy called John. And a lot of them are messages to churches. So we're going to read through a passage today, which should appear on... Yay! Right, let's go. Write this letter to the angel of the church in Laodicea. This is the message from the one who is the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of God's new creation. I know all the things you do, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other. But since you are like lukewarm water, neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have everything I want, I don't need a thing. And you don't realize that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. So I advise you to buy gold from me. Gold that has been purified by fire. Then you will be rich. Also buy white garments from me, so you will not be shamed by your nakedness, and ointment for your eyes, so you will be able to see. I correct and discipline everyone I love, so be diligent and turn from your indifference. Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in, and we will share a meal together as friends. Those who are victorious will sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat with my Father on his throne. Anyone with ears to hear must listen to the Spirit and understand what he is saying to the churches. Cool. So that is quite a chunk, but fear not, because we're going to go through it one verse-ish at a time. So if we go back to the first verse, it says, I know all the things you do, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were one or the other. So in this passage, there is the theme of hot, cold, and lukewarm. So you'll probably hear us mention these words a lot in this talk. So, hot or cold? What do these things mean? So hot, we were saying, it means like wholeheartedly following Jesus. You know God and you are living out your life how he would want you to. So hot, wholeheartedly following God. And then there's this thing called lukewarm, which is kind of sort of believing in God and sort of following Jesus a bit, but not wholeheartedly. You kind of know God and you know He's there, and you're like sort of in, out, not fully in. And then the last one, which is cold, which is we don't believe in God, so we're not going to do that about it. And it's interesting because it's important that we realise in this that two options are given, hot or cold. Lukewarm isn't. Now, we do not want you to be cold at all. We're all here because our desire is for you guys to know Jesus and encounter Him in your life, because we believe He's the only one who can change your life now and forever. So we don't want you to be cold, but it is an option. What isn't an option is this lukewarm thing. So why is being lukewarm worse than not following Jesus at all? Because you might think, oh, surely if I'm following Jesus a bit and I'm living how He sort of wants, that's better than not doing it at all. But that isn't the case at all, as we've read in this verse. So why isn't it okay? Firstly, because God says so is an acceptable answer to this question. But it's not, if we are being lukewarm, we are not living in response to the sacrifice that we as believers believe that Jesus made on the cross. In Matthew 25, there is this parable which Jesus told. A parable is like a story with a point. So in this parable, it's called the parable of the talents, and there is a master, and he has 3 servants, and he gives different amounts of money to each of these servants, and then he goes off. And then one day he comes back, and he asks the servants, like, where's the money, what's happened? So 2 of the servants, they've come back with more money than what the master gave them. They've been proactive. They didn't just hide the money, they've done something with it, and they're able to give stuff back to the master. Now the last servant, he took the money that his master gave him, and he hid it. And the master calls him worthless and useless, and that might sound really harsh, but we need to realise that the problem with the servant is that he didn't recognise the responsibility and the purpose that his master gave him. He just hid the money underground. Are we, as believers, recognising the responsibility and the purpose that our master has given us? And if we're not, and that's something that we need to remind ourselves of constantly, but if we're not, then maybe we're being lukewarm. If you think about it logically, if we believe in Jesus and we believe that He died on the cross for our sins so that we can have a brand new life, if we believe that everything in this book is true, that there is a God who made everything, who split the sea, that He sent His Son called Jesus, and Jesus healed people and brought people back from the dead, and He rose from the dead. If we believe this, then it doesn't make sense for us to act as if that isn't important. There is this other passage in a book called Numbers. Now, at this time, this is before Jesus, so God's people have been wandering around the desert, and they know God's there, but they've been continuously disobeying Him. They've not been living how God wants them to live. And God has promised them this land, and then they're a bit iffy about it, even though God has promised it. So Numbers 32 verses 10 to 12 says this: Then the Lord was very angry with them, and He vowed, Of all those I rescued from Egypt, no one who is 20 years old or older will ever see the land I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for they have not obeyed me wholeheartedly. The only exceptions are Caleb son of Jephunneh and the Kenizzite and Joshua son of Nun, for they have wholeheartedly followed the Lord. God requires that we follow Him wholeheartedly. It can't just be a bit on the side. If we have any faith at all, it needs to affect everything, and we need to be acting like this is the reality and wholeheartedly following Jesus.
So we're now going to look at the next part of this kind of passage. So we've got verses 17 to 18. I think they should come up on there. Yeah, so this is Jesus saying, you say, I am rich, I have everything I want, I don't need a thing, and you don't realise that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. So I advise you to buy gold from me, gold that has been purified by fire, then you will be rich. Also buy white garments from me, so you will not be shamed by your nakedness, and ointment for your eyes, so you will be able to see. So for this next bit, I'm just going to grab my tea again, my nice hot tea. It's very nice, I like it. And so, just throughout whilst I'm speaking, hopefully I'll juggle this well and won't drop one or the other. But throughout this, this section that I'm talking about, if you could just think of T as faith in Jesus. Okay, so I'm sure you guys can all remember that, faith in Jesus, and so I'll be using those different analogies, and you can kind of use your own creative ways in how I'm speaking. But remember that the T is like representing faith in Jesus. So often, like, we may feel on fire for Jesus at times. Like, some of you guys may have gone to Soul Survivor and you really enjoy the worship and you just really feel genuinely connected to God there. And that's when we kind of hold the tea close. Like, we're holding it close to us. I've got it here with me now. I'll be taking sips from it, and that life's good. Like, we've got the tea, we've got our faith in Jesus really close to us. But then, after a while, maybe we just forget about tea. We're like, okay, it's all right. You know what? I'll just put my tea down. You know, you guys have probably all done that. If you've had hot drinks, you're like, I'll just put it down. And then maybe after a while, we might forget about it. And then it becomes cooler and it turns lukewarm. And in this passage, Jesus is talking about how they don't realise their own kind of wretchedness and nakedness. And sometimes we don't realise how lukewarm we are, or how our faith is affecting our lives, and how far away it is from where it should be. And so I just thought of a few reasons why maybe we forget about our tea, why we let it go lukewarm. So one reason might be is that we don't want to drink the tea because we think it might seem boring. You know, we think that, you know, this tea here, you've kind of been brought up with the tea and you've heard it a lot of the time, but actually you don't really realise, you don't really want it because you're like, it's dull. I'd rather have other drinks. I'd rather have like Coke. I'd rather have Sprite or the iced tea. Maybe you like literally might want alcohol or other stuff, but all of these other drinks seem way more fancy and kind of like exciting than this tea. And so maybe you might leave it on the side, which isn't good. Another reason why you might not, you might leave the tea to be lukewarm and decide to just forget about it, is that maybe you just don't trust yourself with the tea. Maybe you've had a bad experience with tea before in the past, like maybe it's kind of hurt you, or maybe you feel like when you drink it you're gonna get burnt or something. Maybe you think you're just gonna drop it, or that you're not good enough for the tea. And so maybe that's the reason why you test it. You don't want to have the full heat of the tea because actually you're kind of scared of it. And another one is that we don't actually realise how important this tea is. If I said to you right now, if like all of you here were dying of a disease, you know, hopefully that won't happen. If you were dying of a disease and I told you this tea right here is the tea that you need to drink and it will save your life, I'm pretty sure every single one of you would drink the tea, right? Yeah? Correct? You want to. And so actually, but the tea, you know, whether we believe it or not, this tea, this faith in Jesus, is actually completely life-saving. Like I said, you guys would probably all drink from it, but actually, this tea is the most life-saving tea you will ever have. Faith in Jesus is a thing that lasts for eternity, and that actually you need to keep drinking from it and constantly be on fire. To have life and to have life to its fullest and for eternal life. And I think the main thing why we allow the tea to get lukewarm, why we let it go on the side, why we forget about it, why we choose to ignore it, and all these other things, is that because we don't trust God enough. I think that's what it boils down to. Like Jesus said that He's the way, the truth, and the life, and He tells us that our lives should be focused around Him. And if we believe in God, like Grace was saying, if we believe in God, He's real, and that everything He said He is, if all of that is true, then our lives should, we should trust Him with our lives and drink the tea. So move on to Grace.
Verse 19, we're almost there, friends. So, verse 19 says, I correct and discipline everyone I love, so be diligent and turn from your indifference. First thing to take from this, God loves us. And that's something we hear a lot, like it's something that we say a lot because it's true, but because we hear it so much, we sometimes don't realise the magnitude of that and that how incredible that is, that there is a God that loves us. And it's because of his love and care for us, which is why he disciplines us. And discipline we think of really negatively because we're like, oh, parents tell us to do this, or parents tell us to do that. We generally don't like discipline. And we hear this thing, oh, it's because they love you, that's why they do it. And that mostly is true, I'm sure. It's not universally true because people aren't perfect. But God is perfect. And you know that God is disciplining you because he loves us. God's love for us, which is another reason why we should be on fire for God. If God loves us, how can we be like that lukewarm tea? It doesn't make sense. If we're on fire for God, it shows that we understand the love that he has for us. The second part of this verse, be diligent. If you believe in Jesus, it should totally transform everything. It should be really real. And being diligent is the constant pursuance of Jesus. It's putting him first in everything and kind of let everything else fall around your focus on Jesus. And it's easy to fall into indifference if we're not being diligent. If we're not constantly pursuing Jesus in praying and reading the Bible and spending time with him and putting him as the priority in our lives, then we can become like this lukewarm tea. We can become indifferent. And also on indifference, if you're not sure what you think about all this yet, and you're like, I'm not a Christian, I don't know what I think. If you're still working out, that's totally fine. We're here because we want to help you explore that. But also, if this is real, it's really important and it's worth thinking about. There is this person who was an author called C.S. Lewis, who wrote Narnia. Have you seen that? They're great films. He said, Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important. If you're not sure what you think about all this yet, we just want to encourage you to keep searching, keep looking, because if all of this is true, it's worth like seeking, it's worth thinking about. And if you take, because it's always going to require faith, you're never going to have your concrete proof and facts or whatever. It still takes faith. But if you live wholeheartedly for him, you're going to see God more and more than you have been if you have just been following him a bit.
So the last verse that we're going to be looking at is this verse number 20. And it says, Jesus saying, look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and we will share a meal together as friends. So there was this painting that was done that represents this verse. Reese, do you think you could pop it up? Next slide for me, mate. Great. So this is Jesus. You can see him. He's knocking at the door, and you might see, but there's no handle like on the outside. Actually, Jesus isn't going to force his way into your life. But actually, you have to open up from the inside. You know, this house is kind of like representing you. That actually, Jesus is constantly knocking and wants a relationship with you. But you have to open up to him and open up to him and let him eat with you and come into your life. And I just want you guys to maybe think about how open is your door to Jesus right now. You know, maybe you guys are like, yeah, no, Jesus come in, Jesus in my house, Jesus in my life, and it's great, like, it's really good, life's good, and my relationship with Jesus is really good. Others of you may be like, I've kind of got the door open, but I'm not going to let Jesus step in. Maybe you got it on the latch, so you can kind of like see a little bit of him, or just peeping out the out of the like kind of little hole, whatever that some doors have. Or you know, or maybe you're hearing this knock, but you're trying your best to avoid it. You're thinking, actually, I keep hearing this stuff about Jesus, but actually I really want to live by myself. I want to live my own way. And there'll be some of you that just be like, well, why should I let him in? Like, I'm really comfortable in my life. I really like living how I want, and actually Jesus coming in may well ruin that. But that is completely not true. And the reason why that you guys should let Jesus into your house and let him into your life is, well, it's all summed up at the cross. See, our default position in life is, you know, we're all going to die, and which is sad. But our default position is that we're going to go to hell, which is actually different to what we're kind of told that actually, you know, if we're good and do a few good things, then we'll go to heaven. But actually, the kind of shocking reality of it is that all of us are destined to this place called hell, which is pretty rubbish, until we are saved. You know, and it's because of our sin that we're destined to this place, because of our selfishness, all the things we've done wrong, that the punishment for that is hell, and that there's nothing we can do on our own to save that, to stop that. And so that's pretty bad. Our sin, all the things, the times we've turned against God, has this massive consequence. But Jesus didn't want that. Jesus wanted to save us from that, and he did that on the cross. And so when Jesus died on the cross, you know, he took the responsibility for every single one of the bad things I've done, every single one of the bad things that you guys have done. And he took the responsibility and the burden of that, even though he's the only person in the entire world ever to not have done anything wrong, to not have sinned. You know, you could argue that any of us, because of our sin, deserved to be on that cross, and Jesus was the only one who deserved to live, but he died for us. See, Jesus paid the ultimate price. He gave his all on that cross for us. And so our response should be that actually we give our all to him. And so if we can go back to the photo, please, Reese. Great. So we talked quite a bit about imagery today, and we're thinking about this photo of Jesus knocking at your door. And I kind of want to add something a little bit to it, that actually, maybe Jesus is knocking at your door tonight, but he's offering you one of two drinks. He's offering you the hot drink, or he's offering you the iced tea there. He's either offering you to come into your life and change completely and to live fully for him, or he's saying, you know what, have your iced tea, reject me. What he's not saying is, I want to come into a bit of your life, to come to every single part of it, and he wants to change us. And so, well, how do we, you guys might be thinking, how do we live our lives fully for Jesus? And there's loads of different ways, there's loads of different things you kind of do, but I mean, the first decision, the first thing that you need to do is actually to invite him in. To actually say, I don't want to live my own way, I don't want to follow this kind of pathway that I'm living for myself, which ultimately heads for destruction. But actually I want to live for Jesus, which brings life, and ultimately brings life for now and also for eternity. So that's the first thing that you need to do, is that you actually just need to accept Jesus. There's loads of different things you can do, and you probably want to talk to your youth leaders about that. But the first thing that you need to do is invite him. And then it's an everyday decision from there, that every day you choose to live for Jesus. And you do that because he gave everything on that cross for us, and so he deserves our all. If we want to have a bit of time now, if any of you guys want to respond to anything that you've heard tonight, anything you felt God might be saying to you, we want to give an opportunity for you guys to pray. And we're kind of like focusing on two groups of people. So the first group of people we're going to think about, there'll be some of you here that may, well, you might say you're a Christian, you might completely not be a Christian, but it's for those people who haven't yet made that decision, I want to follow Jesus. I want him, I want to follow everything he is, and I want my life to be around him. So we want to pray for you guys and get you guys to pray a prayer to let Jesus into your life. And the second group of people is people who kind of really feel like, they have given their life to Jesus, but they're feeling like they're lukewarm. They're feeling that because of life, for whatever reasons, that they've kind of lost their desire, their passion for God, lost their fire for God. And we really want to pray that that fire will kind of be restarted, and that you'll live life from now on more on fire.